If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country. So to all of the young people who felt inspired by my husband's faith and hard work, all of you already know what Charlie would want you to do. The movement's not going anywhere, and it will only grow stronger when you join it.
Erica Kirk, we showed you it in full on Friday. The movement went all over the world, her message. There have been demonstrations and events in countries all over the place. Anna Paulina Luna, a Republican member of Congress, Florida, knew Charlie Kirk, knew his wife Erica and the kids, and is very familiar with Turning Point USA. I wanted to bring her in. I sent you a note, my condolences for your loss of a friend, especially the way it happened. What does this loss, this murder, mean to you?
Well, first of all, it's obviously been hard, and Charlie's someone that will never be able to be replaced. But I do think that this signifies, especially for not just myself, who knew the family, knew Charlie, and is now a member of Congress, but for someone that started out as an activist alongside Charlie, that it indeed has spread his message, and he's going to continue to be impactful even after death. You know, Erica is in a unique position to where she, and I do absolutely believe this, is going to ensure that Turning Point not just continues to expand, but also continues to be responsible for recruiting those that are the future leaders of this country. I got my start, again, as an activist alongside Charlie, but I also know that what they were working towards and what the organization as a whole started doing was recruiting candidates to run for office, backing those candidates, and ultimately getting them elected to the House of Representatives. So I'm actually one of one, but I do look forward to assisting them in that candidate recruitment this next coming election cycle. But what I can tell you, Chris, is that Charlie also, too, knew what was happening in regards to the amount of foreign influence in this country. And actually just today, House Oversight sent out a letter that would freeze the assets, or ask the Treasury Secretary to freeze assets of a billionaire by the name of Neville Singham, who was operating on behalf of the Chinese government to sow discord in this country. I think I'd come onto your show and talked about that a few months back. But as a result of what's happening, you're seeing Congress wanting to take definitive action. So this is multifaceted. I can tell you that following the death of Charlie and watching him actually be murdered in a horrific way, that I wish I could unsee that I then had to spend the following hours actually contacting Meta and Roblox and X and Reddit and various platforms, asking them to take down the video, because people were then sharing the video and then calling for there to be violence upon Erica, the kids, Charlie's family. They were calling for assassination attempts of other politicians, and obviously that type of behavior is not tolerated on social media, especially with their terms and conditions, so they're enforcing it.
Terms and conditions, social media, the algorithms. Am I wrong to point the finger at them? Yes, you've got to think it, you've got to write it, you've got to want to hear it, of course, of course. But do you think it's time for Congress to have a conversation? It can't be the government. The government can't regulate speech. But do you think it's time for the platforms to have more responsibility for what they magnify with their algorithms?
I think right now, my main concern, obviously, is that within 3 days, I saw, you know, and this is, by the way, being showed to children, right? So there was a video of a woman in Philadelphia being executed with a firearm. She's a black woman. There was a video of the Ukrainian refugee being stabbed to death. That went viral. That was horrifying. And then, obviously, the murder of my friend. And I think that when you have a society that desensitizes death and removes humanity like that, it's obviously a problem. But more importantly, these platforms, if they want to maintain licensing, do have terms and conditions. And many of those terms and conditions include not displaying video or violence in an effort to, you know, A, protect children that are on the platform, but also, two, you know, if they have users that are on there, you're opting in to adhere to those standards when you're using the platform. So I think that there might be something coming down the pipe from the FTC on this, but what I can tell you is it was horrifying having to see this stuff over and over again and having to then flag it for these platforms. But I was very happy that some of these CEOs, specifically Roblox, specifically on X even, and then also to these other platforms, that they're willing to take down that information almost immediately. You know, Blue Sky, that tends to be the left-leaning Twitter, was actually the quickest to respond, and they said that they're horrified to see that people were making calls for violence, and that was not something that they condoned. They released a statement, and they actually got to work immediately removing this content.
Do you believe that these platforms need you to tell them that they're doing things that are unduly provocative, or do you think that they just wait to get stopped instead of doing it themselves?
I was surprised that I had to make phone calls. I know some of them were trying to work quickly, but obviously they're also inundated. So I know, you know, the least I could do is at least ensure that this was being done and continue to flag some of these larger accounts. Some of the more horrifying stuff, though, I saw was actually people saying that Erica and his kids needed to be next. And I don't care who you are, you should never advocate for the murder of people, not to mention innocent children and women. And so I think that what you're seeing right now is a lot of people that are hiding behind keyboards and make statements, but unfortunately there are consequences to that. And so you'll see that there's going to be investigations coming forward. I don't know how much Discord has an involvement, but I do find it alarming that from what I'm being told, that there are recruitment tools and mechanisms. There's also these left-wing organizations, though, but they are receiving foreign funding from governments like China, and so that has to be looked into. But today was a first step in the right direction, and it's not going to stop there. But unfortunately, this is something that we are all going to have to reflect deeply on, because Charlie never deserved that. His family never deserved that. To see how people reacted to it was obviously abhorrent to witness in real time. And, you know, I even had to sit here and hear people comment prior on him that didn't know him, that were taking stuff out of context, and that's hard to hear. But, you know, I'm here to ensure that at least his legacy lives on, that we protect that, and that we continue to fight for what Charlie believed in.
What has been the hardest part for you in this, Anna Paulina, emotionally, to deal with this so far?
Well, Charlie's the reason why I'm in office. I was recruited by him to work with Turning Point. He convinced me not to go to medical school. I traveled with him for a year around the country, going to college campuses, debating these kids. I talked to him about inherent contempt on Merrick Garland. I would go on a show. I just saw him recently in Tampa, actually, for SAS. So it's someone that was, I guess you could consider a general within the conservative movement. He connected many people. For goodness sakes, I even campaigned with him in Arizona for J.D. Vance. So he is obviously someone that is never going to be able to be replaced, but I think it should go to show that his impact really genuinely does have a significant impact. I would put on the same scale, and I said this last Sunday's vigil here in Washington at the Kennedy Center, as Dr. Martin Luther King, JFK, and RFK. And unfortunately, he was assassinated because he had differing beliefs. And that's not American what happened. This person was a coward, and we're not going to let them silence his voice or his legacy.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.